This Guitar Interactive magazine feature is brought to you by Ernie Ball Strings. For more information, visit ernieball.com.
Hi guys, Jonathan Graham here for Guitar Interactive Magazine. Our NAMM 2025 coverage continues, and we're with a man who needs no introduction. You can see him. It's Mr. John Petrucci. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
It's always a pleasure to see you when you've got new music out, when you've got a new guitar out. You've got both. Doubly exciting. But let's start, of course, with the new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I know so much new things.
Of course.
On the horizon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this year for NAMM 2025, we're introducing some new finishes. You know, I like to say that over the, I don't even know how many years I've been with Ernie Ball Music Man, 25 at least, probably more. We got to get a number on that, approaching 30. But we've perfected the models throughout the years. And so, you know, the JP15 is just like the perfect bolt-on version of my guitar with all the specs exactly the way I love them, and then the Majesty is the perfect rendition of a neck-through version. So what we've been doing for the last few years is introducing new finishes to those guitars, and so every year we talk about it, we work on it, and these guys surprise me with this like over-the-top unbelievable finishes. I'm always blown away.
And how involved, because obviously you're so involved with the road testing, and you know, you want to tweak things and change things, and it's evolved over those 25 years,
exactly.
Which I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. But just specifically talking on these new tops, how involved do you get with that, with the colours? Do you just trust them at this point that they're going to just surprise you with something you've not seen before?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Yeah, I do trust that. Like, they're so incredible at it that I'm like, just you guys do your thing.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'll have suggestions. You know, I'd like to do something like this, or you know, and then they'll make that happen as well. So it's a combination of the both. But you know, literally, I have 100% trust in them that I know they're going to come up with just something stunning. Like I always look forward to the call. Like, okay, you're on FaceTime, like, we got the new one, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like drooling.
Well, it's the combination of that and the wood choices. I mean, I don't know what kind of deal they've made with the devil, but
Right,
Music Man just seems to have like the best. You know.
They do. Well, what's great about the BFR versions, and there's two of them, and the color names are also fun too. This is Toxic Sludge, and the one behind you, that red one, is Solar Flare. So just beautiful burl tops, which make for such a random, just artistic, crazy top.
Is there one that's standing out to you as like just edging is a favorite right now?
I feel like for some reason it's very metal or something. I don't know. And these are also the guitars made of black limba, which is like a denser kind of wood. The guitar's a bit heavier, so meatier.
Absolutely.
But all the specs, I was talking about the years that I've been working on the guitars. There are things that we perfected and through experimentation. Such as the neck carve, the fretboard radius, the fret material.
Sure.
Of course, the pickups with DiMarzio over the years, and so we got to the point where just everything is like perfect. Like, don't change it.
Of course.
But even having said that, all the guitars over the years, starting with the JP6, some of the anniversary models like the JPX and the 13, and they're all amazing guitars. I get people coming up to me, my favorite one is the JP16 with the Floyd Rose, and or I love the original JP6 with the scoop. And what I try to do is bring a lot of them out on tour. So during a 3-hour Dream Theater show, I'll play a JP6 anniversary and then move on to a JP7 7-string JP15, and then the Majesty.
Because that's the whole point. It's for you to use.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just selling them with your name on it. It's got to be something that's worthy of being on a record, being on stage with you.
Exactly.
And just touching on new records. So I got to hear the new album.
Yeah, that's crazy. You had a busy morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a wake up call. That's 71 minutes of a new Dream Theater record, man. Right now, Night Terror is standing out to me as such a highlight, but that's just on the first listen.
Sure.
Just talk a little bit about how special this is, putting this new album together. The band's all back together.
Yeah.
The energy just feels like you guys are like in your 20s again.
I know, right?
So
we keep telling ourselves that.
Absolutely. So just talk us a little bit for the guys who haven't got to hear it, because obviously
Yeah.
that's the thing, to
Sure.
really experience, you got to hear it. But from your perspective of putting it together, how was it?
Absolutely. Well, it first of all, it's called Parasomnia. It comes out on February 7th for all those paying attention. Parasomnia is a term. It's a weird word,
Yeah.
but it's very apt, appropriate for Dream Theater because it means sleep disturbances. Night terrors, sleep paralysis, sleepwalking.
Yeah.
And so the album is thematic and conceptual and has to do with characters going through these different events. It was a really special album to make because, as most people know, it's the first one with our original drummer, Mike Portnoy, rejoining the band since the Black Clouds and Silver Linings days.
Sure.
So it's been like 13 years.
Yeah.
And we entered the studio in February of last year, and it was just like, your brother's back.
Yeah.
We met John Myung, and I met him when we were 18, like at Berklee College of Music. We were kids, and so having him back in the band has just been amazing. And
Did you always feel like he was coming back at some point?
it's hard to say. You don't. It's not something that you really predict or plan or whatever.
Yeah.
It was sort of like everything aligned, the stars aligned, and it was the right time to do it. We're also at the point where it hurts me to say in some ways, and it's also fun to say, 40th anniversary.
Yep.
How long have I been doing this for? But no, we're actually really, really fortunate
Incredible.
to have a career that long, and so this is the 40th anniversary tour. So there's so many milestones. Mike returning the first record with him in many, many years, and then us celebrating the 40th anniversary. So it's been incredible.
Do you feel like, I know the record's not even dropped yet, but it's got that kind of energy of a band? I was at the O2 show.
Yeah.
The first
You
show that
were.
I was there, of course,
nice. That had a lot of energy.
And a very emotional night, actually.
It was very emotional.
From fans and on stage. And we've seen some clips of you throughout the tour where
Totally.
you can feel that, the emotions
Totally.
really getting to you.
Yes.
This obviously isn't going to be the last record here.
No.
I feel you guys are going to go straight on to
Exactly.
more.
Yes.
And, right after. Talk a little bit about how emotional this has sort of been for you. Did that surprise you? Like when you've been playing these shows back together. I mean, obviously you take it seriously no matter what tour or what album you're on.
Right.
But this does feel a little different.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. No, we all feel it every night. From that first O2 show.
Yeah.
As soon as our Kabuki thing dropped and we hit the first, the beginning of Metropolis there. I mean, the looks on people's faces in the audience, just everybody hugging and crying and, us kind of doing the same thing on stage, like pinching ourselves. There is a definite palpable energy and elation in the audience, and on stage. And so it's been incredible, man.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned Night Terror before.
Yeah.
How that track stands out. That was the first song that we wrote together when we entered the studio.
Brilliant.
So it kind of gives you an idea of how we were feeling because it's packed with so much stuff.
Yeah.
And we were just like, man, let's go. And that song, it came out the way it did. And
Incredible.
it sort of set the tone for the album, which was really sort of dark, riffy, heavy, kind of, mysterious.
It's incredible.
Kind of theme.
And that solo section, that feels like that's just straight out, like was that just a natural, almost improvisation, because those parts are insane.
It is insane.
Because you wouldn't plan on doing that unless you felt it.
I mean, there's actually three sections to that. One is this crazy unison that Jordan and I are doing, which I was sort of like firing up this new technique I've been working on, which is this crazy like hyper speed picking thing. I always wanted to do it. We did it. The other thing is that the main guitar solo section. Really drew inspiration from our favorite band of all time, which is Rush.
I was
Totally.
like, why was he on steroids?
Yeah, it's totally why was he.
Yeah.
And just to get nerdy for a second as well, I when I played the guitar solo, I limited myself to only using the notes of this certain scale that the song is based on, and not going out of it at all, which was a total challenge. And it's called Super Phrygian. And it has a really exotic, weird sound. And then the third part is it goes into a more like melodic, thematic thing, which is something that's I really love to do as well.
Yeah.
And that's when you hear everybody singing along in the audience.
Yeah, no,
So
for
it's
sure,
fun. Yeah.
for sure. See, just looking back to Another Day.
Yeah.
I know, Images, Words, and it's a while back, but it's just always something that's fascinated me. That sax solo.
Yeah.
Now, you guys are obviously bringing it's an incredible track. But, it's a one-of-a-kind, that. That's a little sax solo on there, and it's so beautiful and incredible. What's the story behind how that came to be? And, it's amazing.
So Images and Words and a couple of other albums, Scenes from a Memory, to name another one, were recorded at a studio called Bear Tracks Studios. That was in upstate New York, in a town called Suffern. And it was owned by Jay Beckenstein, who was the sax player and founder of Spyro Gyra.
Oh, okay.
And so Jay, he would just be there, whatever, walking. He left us alone, but he lived there. His house was connected, and you see him every once in a while. And we wrote the song, and the producer at the time, David Prater, was like, "We should get Jay to play on this." And he literally came in, and I think he improvised 2 takes or 3 takes, and we're like, oh my God, it's so cool. And it was very different for us. We didn't plan on it when we wrote the song originally. And it just added this flavor that was so unique, and Jay plays like no one else. So it ended up being so recognizable in the end. And it's one of these ones that just, you can tell it just fits perfectly, and everyone's cooking on the record anyway, but it's a lovely addition. Just going back to the Music Man stuff, because obviously incredible finishes and all that over the years and what have you. Now, there's a couple of designs on guitars over the years that are a little bit associated with you. It's pre-Music Man. I wondered, can these designs, could they actually be used on a Music Man guitar at some point? I don't think so. I think it's its own realm.
Yeah. Because I didn't know whether it was the brand owned that or it was just a different artist and it could actually be used.
Right. That's a good question.
Yeah.
It was certainly an artist who did that, who worked for that company. So I don't know what the ownership of it is.
Yeah, they just always wondered if there'd be some anniversary thing or whatever down the line. Maybe. Very recently spoke with Joe Satriani, Eric Johnson, and Steve Vai on their reunion album, and we had to, during it, we were talking about all the great players that have been involved in that tour over the years, and of course your name came up because you've been involved in so many of them, and one of the most scary guys that they've played.
Oh my God, that's so nice. But those guys are scary.
But Joe did mention that he felt that was the catalyst for you to do a solo record.
Absolutely was. Yeah. In fact, when he asked me. It was 2001, and we were actually recording 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, and I got the call from my manager, and I was like, of course I want to do it. Yeah. And then I immediately went to, what the hell am I going to play? I don't have any solo material. Yeah. And so, I wrote a few songs for that tour, and then those few songs ended up being, part of my first solo album, which is Suspended Animation. So Joe completely lit a fire under me to get some solo music, some solo guitar, instrumental music.
Well, two parts to the question. Let's just final thing. Could we see another solo record down the line? And would you get involved with the G3 guys again, you think?
Well, for me, I would say yes to a G3 invite in a heartbeat. I love Joe, and I love all the guitar players, Steve, and everybody who's always involved with it. So if Joe asks me, I'm there. I always say that.
Absolutely.
And as far as another solo record, my last one was Terminal Velocity, which I wrote during the pandemic when everybody was home, and I'm like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it, because the space between that and Suspended Animation was, I don't know how many years, 15 years, something
absolutely.
It was that was the Eric Johnson thing, I think I beat Eric with the space between records. So hopefully I won't wait as long to do another one, but I'd love to,
Absolutely.
I always say that it's just a matter of opportunity, because Dream Theater's, what's happening now with everything going on. There's going to be so much touring. That's it. And so it's hard to find those pockets of time.
Busier than ever as well, so it makes sense. Look, John, thanks so much for taking some time. Congratulations on the new models.
Thank you so much.
The standard's incredible.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to seeing you when you're back in the UK again.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Awesome, man.